Alright, so here is a Lenovo E540. So you can see it right there, there's E540. And I got this from where I work. So it used to be a customer's, and I just had to wipe it, and I bought it off of them, off where I work. It's got an i5 4200M. Let's check here, just to be sure. Pretty positive. Yeah, i5 4200M. It was actually upgraded to 8 gigs of RAM because this was kind of a power user. So yeah, and it's got a 500 gig in it. Anyway, the keyboard, as you might notice, and which is probably why you're watching the video, the keyboard is backlit. And if anyone that has an E series knows, these didn't even come wired for backlighting in the keyboard. There's no power. That as the connector fits. If you buy, okay, so like this that I bought, this keyboard, when I bought it on Amazon, it said it fits like W550s, Y550, and E540, of course, and a few other models. But they say the other ones, and they get probably half of them are people buying them for like the E540s, and come to find out that these things don't even have actually supply power to the strip for the motherboard for backlighting the keyboard. So what I did was I did something a little bit custom. But before I get into it, I'll just explain a little bit more. Everything still works on it. This still works, and I'm just saying this is the first time I turned it on. This is the this cable that this is hooked up to, this little module thing that's under the keyboard, and there's two screws that are holding it on from the bottom up. That cable is what actually carries the power for the backlighting. It's for that module, and it's under the keyboard is where you can actually see the or under the space bar, where you can see the module for the little thing. So I'll open the keyboard and I'll show you kind of what I did. I'll take the keyboard off. Alright, so now I got the keyboard off, the front of it off, the laptop is still on. So, as you can see here, this is not factory. So what I did was, this is the ribbon right here. This wire goes over here. That's the thumb thing. So there's the ribbon for that. And this right here is the I'm not exactly sure what kind of light it is, but basically it emits it from right here. And with this diffuser and whatnot on the back here, and the way all the there's like a diffuser on the back of it under this, it just spreads it all across here. So it obviously starts out here and it just spreads it on each side of the keyboard. There's not actually LEDs anywhere in these keys. It comes from here and spreads out. So right here you can see this is where this ribbon would connect, and right here is actually the ribbon for the old keyboard that I took out. So this is the factory one. I cut it off. Right there. You don't see it because I cut it off. It's not in here anymore. I took the thumb thing out. See right there, I took the thumb just because I wanted to, and this thing's trashed now, obviously, because I cut that off. Actually, the keyboard isn't bad, it's just the thumb thing's bad. I could actually put this keyboard back in if I wanted to, but it had something spilled on it. You might be able to tell along. Especially tell right there. So yeah. So basically what this is doing is these two, okay, so you can see right here. I'm not going to take it apart because it's really, but I can just really explain it. So if you'll see right here, you can see this strip, these black strips on the back of this is actually, so on the far right is negative, and I found this just by hooking power to the keyboard. I just found this out just by plugging, you know, 3 volts to the keyboard itself on those, because on the bottom of this, I can lift this up and actually show you. So right there you can see there's a plus and a minus. So the right side is negative, obviously. The middle, I found out, was actually needed power too. So the left side is positive, which gets power, and the middle gets power also. So actually what I ended up doing, which is weird, probably like one of them, I bet the thicker left side one is probably a constant power, and the middle is probably something to do with the dimness, the brightness of the keyboard, if it would actually work. But the actual brightness adjustment actually doesn't work, and you can't turn the keyboard off and on because I have it powered. So this ribbon's still plugged in, and all the contacts still go to the laptop itself. It's just that if you look right on here, those 3 traces in front of to the right of my fingernail are the power coming in for this keyboard, the backlighting. So that's right there is negative, that's one of the powers, and that's the main power right there. So since this is bent, you can see that it would be these right here, so on this side right by my finger, and you can see that, so the second and the third one are actually bridged with this red one. So the second and the third, it's actually that wire is actually soldered onto both of those traces, and you just have to kind of scrape. You can take a knife and scrape away this the pink covering, and then it just gives you the copper ribbon. So you have to solder that. It's pretty easy to solder too. You just can't get it very hot. And then obviously the one on this side is the negative. So the reason I did it that way is obviously you can't. I tried to first start off with. Let me lift it up right here. I had to start off with, oh, it's going to flip my orientation. Soldering on the back of that, and you can see where I started melting it and stuff. There's very little contacts on the back of there. I can actually maybe show you here. Let me lift the ribbon up. Once I get it, don't want to mess it up much because it's not the most. It's kind of fragile, and I definitely don't want to get back and solder this thing again. Did it once, and I want to be done with it. So, right under there, maybe you can see. Let's get it to where you can actually see it. This flash doesn't help with the focusing because it shines on bright things. But anyway, the point is, to get the orientation back to what it's supposed to be. All right. So the point is, those 3 wires right there is what you have to power. So what I did was, so this right here, you can see, it's actually right there on those 2. The blue, it's actually a rigid piece of plastic, right there on this one too, that goes in. The ribbon itself is this thickness all the way to the end of it. To get both of them to fit, you actually have to take the rigid plastic off of this one, off of the one that you cut off the old keyboard, to get it to fit in to the top. And what those pins is, they actually make contact inside of the connector. They make contact on the top and on the bottom. So you just have to take that off, and you can squeeze both of the ribbons in to the same port. You don't have to do anything. You just have to finesse them both in, kind of pushing the top one in slightly before the bottom one, because it's got the plastic thing, so you can give it some more force without bending everything. The top one, you try and push it in, and it just bends because there's no more rigid plastic piece to it. So that's covered. Negative, power, and power. So I came down here, those are soldered on. So the wires, and the reason that I did this is because it's flat. You can't, it doesn't stick up. So there's the case, and obviously the keyboard sits right on this, and nothing sticks up above this. These wires lay flat. So this goes through a hole that's just here. I don't even know what it is. It doesn't actually come through onto anything on the top either. So I will pause, and we'll see the bottom of it after I take the bottom cover off. So let's do that. Right, so now the bottom's open. Computer's still on. So the wires come through right there, and then they go into the fan. So that's where I tap the power. So this is if you would have seen the other side where the keyboard's at, I actually could have showed you. But this, I saw that this was 5 volts DC. Obviously it's DC, it's on the laptop. But anyway, this is 5 volts, and I actually don't even know the specification on the actual. I think I hooked it up to 18650, and it still was. I can't tell. I think the 5 volts actually it's a little bit brighter. The 12 volts. Yeah, I can tell you something about that. I originally had just a power supply that I was actually. That's how I figured out what the different connections were on the ribbon for the motherboard, and I hooked up 12 volts to it, and I felt that middle the middle thing, and it was hot, and I was like, wow. And the diffuser, like the plastic on each side of that the ribbon that goes up the center, it was so hot to the touch, and it was literally melting. I saw it just kind of peeling up. So don't put 12 volts to that keyboard backlighting. That's way too much. So what I did was put 5 volts, and it barely even heats up. It just a little bit of heat, and I'm just going to assume that that's normal. If you want to track down 3 volt source anywhere else on the laptop, go right ahead. I was tired of looking for sources. I was looking through, like, who knows what those are. Those are really nice big contacts. They seem like they would, they're just there. There's nothing soldered to them. But anyway, I mean, I'm not going to start hooking up a probe to random contacts on the board. So on this, you'll see that the wires, so these are really thin and they're short, so it's kind of a hodgepodge way to do it, and it looks kind of bad, but I heat shrinked it, so hey, it makes up for it, right? But right side is negative, the far right pin is negative, and this is a 5 pin, so I was like looking around, like couldn't figure out what the pinout would be on this. And there was only some Dell ones, and actually I think they kind of got me around the right track, because they pretty much said that one of the second pins on, and I don't know obviously which side it started from, but the second pin in would have been positive. So I hooked a tester to it, a lead to it, and I found out that the outside's negative, and then that pin right there is positive. So that's 5 volts constant. And I was thinking, being this as a fan, it's going to be, when you first turn the computer on, the fan doesn't kick on. And if you're doing maybe just a PowerPoint probably actually would heat it up. 1 second here. So yeah, this is 12 volt constant, and I found that out because when you first turn it on, the fan doesn't come on, but I put a tester to it. I figured out that it was 5 volt constant. As long as the computer's on, it's 5 volts. So my backlight is on if the computer is actually on and active. Now the cool thing, if it goes to sleep, power goes off to the fan like it should, because it's not going to kick on once in sleep. So my keyboard turns off just like it's supposed to. The only thing is I can't adjust the brightness until I add in a dimmer switch, just a potentiometer between these, between the 2 wires, which I can do, and I might just do. I don't know where I would stick it though. I was thinking maybe just on the bottom somewhere, but I could run it out. Maybe, I don't know, just kind of hodgepodge it into the. So yeah, there's nothing else more I need to talk about with light, because my battery is going down on my phone. I plugged it in, but obviously that's not going to be enough. It's still until it charges up above 15%. But yeah, so the 5 volts from the fan, it turns off when it goes into sleep. The keyboard backlighting turns off, and all is well. You just can't turn it off until I add something, because it's just power coming from the fan. It's turned on, it's switched, and I can just put something in there. I can either just put a switch or wire in a potentiometer so I can adjust the brightness. Which I probably will do whenever I decide, I guess, to. There's, I think, no, that's just the power. The Kingston was on the other side, or Kensington was on the other side. Yeah, so if you want to put in power, actually maybe on the front there would be okay-ish, maybe right there, because that would be in the way of the hinge. So yeah, now you know where the power, you can get the power from, and you know how to add a backlight to a Lenovo E540 or anything else that is kind of the same design, and the ribbon still is going to fit into the connector even though the connector doesn't give the keyboard power, and didn't break anything else. Everything works fine. The back, it's just these wires here. The back still goes on fine. So yeah, now you can go out and add backlighting to your Lenovo E series laptop too if you want. But yeah, I ordered the backlight because I was like, I looked up on, I just obviously just searched on Amazon, E540 backlit keyboard. Oh look, there's one, you know, so obviously it works, you know, because I saw the product. No, it doesn't work easily, at least. So this took me several hours because I literally was doing planning, and then I was doing the planning and then just doing it right then while I was, you know, just going into it, trying different things. The hardest part was figuring out how I was going to get the power to the to the keyboard. I knew pretty soon off that I was going to take the power from that fan, but getting the power, oh my god, to the keyboard, the backlighting, that ribbon was the annoying part to do. So, and yeah, one thing, obviously, I was watching videos and they're like, oh, it's too thick, it won't fit. So over here on the numpad, it does, when you do stick it down in, it is kind of a hump. I can actually stick this corner in and show you maybe what it looks like. So this is this corner all the way in, a little slidey thing, and I do like this design quite a lot actually. So this is this whole edge almost all the way in as soon as I get. So yeah, this is all in, and you can see there is a bit of a hump on the numpad. There's a little bit of a hump there, kind of right in this general area. But you don't feel it. You hardly even, I can feel a little bit right there where there's a hump. But you can't tell, it's fine. The keyboard still fits. It's not any thicker. There are some Lenovo's where the little back on the keyboard is literally like, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch thicker than the stock non-backlit keyboard. So, if you get an E540 and a backlit keyboard thinking that it's going to fit, and now you're watching this video, now you can do it yourself. A little bit of time. Thanks for watching.